Think we are getting started. Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Pastor Terrell L. McTire, and I serve as your Minister of New Church Strategies of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ New Church Ministry. We are so glad that you have joined us today. This is an important topic that we're discussing today. As we get started, I just want to inform you that this webinar is being recorded and available for your playback and for your share to be able to blast out to your community. You can see that in other ones of our episodes at newchurchhacks.com. This is the 6th or 7th episode in our complete series on New Church Hacks, which provides practical and sometimes peculiar prompts for churches from start to restart. And today we are talking about 39 hacks to prevent ministry burnout. And let me say, this is a very timely conversation. Matter of fact, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So, throughout May, please start thinking about those things. Matter of fact, one of our sister general ministries, the National Benevolent Association, has, through their mental health initiative, contributed a campaign online. And so there's lots of stuff. If you go to their Instagram or their social pages, they have webinars, blog posts, videos, all from the disciples across the life of the church who are sharing and raising awareness for mental health and wellness during this very special month. So share these materials with your ministry. Matter of fact, in a minute, I'll throw a link up so you can get direct access to those materials. But yes, please keep this in mind that this is Mental Health Awareness Month as we talk about burnout. So this webinar can be used as a tool for discussion or call to action within your congregation, your regions, to start and sustain healthy, new, and renewing churches. So stay until the very end when I will also give you 7 totally off-topic but invaluable new church hacks. At the end, you'll also have time for questions. So throughout this webinar, we welcome you to shout out where you are, who you are, and let us know this is a very well-attended webinar today. And so we want to know more about you. Also, if you have questions, throw those in the chat or throw those into the Q&A feature. We will be sure to address them a little bit later. Now, to get us started, I want to welcome our 2 guests. Let me put this down here. Let's put them up on the screen now. We have 2 of our partners from the United Methodist Church who have so graciously joined us. Let's see, they're popping up now. There's my friend Junius, and then Kara is also here with us. Okay, hey guys. All right, so first, Kara Oliver is the executive director of the Upper Room Center for Christian Spiritual Formation. She also has written 5 books for Upper Room Publishing. She is a rock star and a person who you definitely want to get to know. That's Kara right there in the middle. And then my good friend Junius B. Dotson is the General Secretary or the Chief Executive Officer for Discipleship Ministries for the United Methodist Church. He is also the interim pastor for, oh my gosh, my page is like cut off here. He's also the interim for your church.
Gordon Memorial, United Methodist Church in Nashville, Tennessee.
All right. Thank you. All right, so he interim pastor there. He also is an author. Matter of fact, we are going to learn more about his recent works that are coming out pretty soon called Soul Reset. And so, matter of fact, let's just go ahead and take a moment to say a little bit about that book, because this is an exciting time for that. So let me throw that promotion up there. Junius, do you want to go ahead and just get us started? Let's start by asking a quick impromptu question. What triggered you to actually write this book?
Well, Soul Reset is about my own personal journey in ministry. It's called Breakdown, Breakthrough, and the Journey to Wholeness. And it really chronicles my work as a church planter and as a person who pastored a very, very large 3,500 member church and created a second campus. But in the midst of all of that ministry, dealing with depression, anxiety, and it chronicles and a year of tremendous grief in my life. So it chronicles my story and the things that my continuing journey towards wholeness and the things that I've had to do to try to keep sanity.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much. We look forward to reading that. and learning more about it. We're glad that you're here with us today to kind of share a little bit of a sneak preview into the Soul Reset Chronicles. And, you know, we thank you. Us church planters definitely, and even all those across the life of ministry, need to understand exactly how to get this done. To get started, let's ask our audience, our family, our community here, our New Church Hacks community, a question to make sure we get to the understanding, first of all, of exactly what burnout is. So right now, go ahead and access your chat feature. And we want you to answer the very first question for you. What do you consider burnout? What is burnout to you? So go ahead and throw that into the chat. Matter of fact, I'm looking at the chat feature now. We see lots of people coming in, a lot of people all over the world. Actually, we had a few people from Israel who are here with us. Honolulu, it's great. So, but right now we welcome you to give your definition of burnout. And actually, Kara, I'm going to have you get started. Just kind of help us get a little bit of understanding to exactly what we mean by burnout.
Well, when we were preparing for this webinar at a gathering of clergy, someone shared their definition of burnout, and they used a quote from theologian Flora Slossner-Wollner. She said, "If the shepherd isn't fed, he or she will start to eat the sheep." And that was a classic definition for me of burnout. It's true in my own ministry when I don't have enough rest, when I'm overextended, when I've committed to too many things, I don't have enough time with my family, I start to eat the sheep. I find that I have a shorter temper. I don't have as much compassion or mercy for people. And so I have to pay real close attention about how I'm treating other people. And that's usually the indicator that my reserves are too low. And I'm not going to have the energy and passion for the work that I'm called to do. So we want to talk today about how we can help each other from not eating the sheep that we've been given to pastor.
Great. That's pretty insightful. I love that quote. I think that there's lots of great definitions as I'm looking at the chat here of people who really seem to have a good understanding about what burnout is and, you know, how that works. I want to take a moment to actually pull up one of the chat questions. The first question I want to publish here, and you guys can go ahead and answer this right in real time. How many of you have actually experienced burnout? So the answers are coming in so far. It looks like quite a few of us have experienced burnout. And I'm actually allowing for time to see if there are people who have said, you know, that they don't. Look like a few people have had the blessed opportunity not to experience burnout, but for the majority of us, they say they have, and quite a few people are saying, I'm not really sure if I've actually experienced burnout. And so I have a second question for us real quick. Let's see here. The second question I'd like to ask you guys to answer would be, how deep into your ministry did you start to experience burnout? So is that within the first year? Is within the first few years? Far after a decade when you were just kind of like at a place of exhaust? Or can you say that throughout your life in ministry or dealing with ministries, you have never experienced burnout? So let's just take a few moments to look at that poll and see how many people have experienced burnout within so many years of their actual ministry. This is interesting. It seems almost about equal so far. So I'm gonna give it like 5 more seconds and see which category prevails. It looks like that most people are experiencing burnout right there at the first 5 years of their ministry. And so that's something to kind of think about within that first 5 years. I want to just dive right into this topic and really kind of understand exactly what you guys are saying are the hacks for us to help us actually get through and prevent burnout. So, Kara, Junius, take it away.
Well, hack number one, breathe. Breathe deeply. Breathe God and the peace of Jesus, the peace of Christ. They are as close as your inhale and exhale. I was just in a meeting. I've been in a meeting, a very intense meeting the last couple of days. And there were moments in that meeting when I literally had to be aware of my breath and just breathing in deeply and exhaling and being aware of my breath immediately reduced my stress level. So that's hack number one. Number two is drink lots of water. If you have a headache, if you are grouchy, 8 ounces of water may be all you need. So drink water. When I'm in my office, I'm drinking water constantly, like all day. I drink water. So that's a very, very good thing to do. Number three is take a walk a couple times a day. Step away from your desk. Leave the cell phone behind. Sometimes if I'm in the building and somebody says, hey, Junius, can I have a couple of minutes with you? I'll get up and say, yeah, walk with me. And we'll go downstairs or we'll go to the break room or whatever. So it's just a matter of walk and talk. And you'll find that your meetings are actually more efficient when you're walking and talking. Number four, keep healthy snacks around. Fruit, nuts, they give you energy. You feel better too. So sometimes just a snack is a quick pick me up. And then number five is start your day with silence. A cup of coffee with no music, no conversation, no phone, or on your drive to work, or even just shut the door in your office just for a few minutes, just to be in silence. And when you're in silence, you are just aware of the presence of God. So be thinking of and experiencing the presence of God in those moments.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Junius. I think these are things that we can do every single day. And I want to encourage and talk about some other things that we might do maybe more on a weekly basis. Journaling is something that is really important to me. I've been a writer since I was in junior high. The first time I got a journal, it's oftentimes I don't know what I think until I write it down. Julia Cameron is author of The Artist Way. She recommends that all of us write 3 pages every morning. Just stream of conscious, get it out, whether it's because you're getting ready to write a sermon or just for your own benefit to know how you're feeling and what you're thinking that day. If you can write 3 longhand pages, science says it's better to do it with your hand than on your computer. Hack number 7 is another one from Julia Cameron. She calls it an artist date. What would it mean to have a date with yourself every week to do something creative? To go to a museum, to go to a local garden or a park, to watch the dogs or take your dog, to watch the kids. What if you went to make pottery or make jewelry? Just anything to get out of your head and to break your usual patterns. Hack number 8. This is a good Wesleyan question. John Wesley asked all of us as Methodists, how is it with your soul? And we can gloss right over it. We can move past it quickly. But to really sit with that question, how is it with your soul? It might be, again, something you journal about in the morning. That might be the question that you enter into with your prayer time with God. Or you might actually sit with someone else and ask them, how is it with your soul? And let them ask you. And really try to answer that as honestly as you can. Hack number 9 is to find a time or a place where you can be a participant. There was a time in my ministry that every time I would tell my mom, hey, I'm going off to a retreat, she'd say, oh, what are you leading? And it was great the day that I got to tell her, I'm actually a participant. I'm not leading the retreat. I'm going just to learn. So or just to be fed. So where can you be a participant? At the upper room, Dana Trent wrote a book for us called One Breath at a Time. And she talked about leading meditation and centering prayer for years, but she had never actually experienced it herself because she was the leader. She was watching the clock and she wasn't actually participating in it. So where can you be a participant instead of a leader? And number 10, don't confuse religious programming with spiritual practice. So lots of us are busy planning meetings, We're preparing and we're up front. And that is religious and God is in that, but it's not spiritual practice. So how are you taking time to be in silence, to be fed and to be heard by God? So how do we attend to both our inner life and our outer life? And I think there's ways we can do that even in meetings, to start our meetings with silence. To use Lectio Divina instead of just reading through a scripture, because that's what we're supposed to do at the beginning of a meeting. So that's hack number 10.
Hack number 11, and Kara, that's a very good point about not confusing programming or responsibilities of getting ready for something as spiritual practice. And it goes with my hack number 11. Remember that no one needs Jesus more than you do. And I think about that when I'm leading worship. Sometimes in the midst of leading worship, you can get distracted. You can get distracted by the temperature in the sanctuary, or somebody missed a media slide, or the sound's not quite right. In those moments, remember you're there to worship, and that's a moment to call yourself back to center. Number 12, invite people on the journey that you can be completely honest with and who are willing to call you out. You need people who can be honest with you. You need people who can pull you to the side and say, I think you may need to check yourself on this particular issue. We all need those kind of persons we call accountability partners in our lives. And you have to give people permission to be able to do that. Hack number 13, read good books. And particularly for my pastors and leaders, read books that are not about leadership. Read a novel, read a book on poetry, read other disciplines. That's a way to stretch your mind and to stretch the boundaries of your ability to learn new things. So I really would encourage you to do that. For years, the only books I would ever read were books on leadership. And I've learned to start reading other types of books that help me. I'm reading a book on movements right now, but it's kind of related to leadership, but not really. It's really about movements, all right? Hack number 14, forgive and be forgiven. I think this may be one of those hidden things as it relates to burnout, is when you are carrying unforgiveness in your heart if somebody's wronged you, or you're carrying a grudge that weighs on your spirit. And so it's forgive, but also be forgiven. We're human. We make mistakes. And sometimes the hardest thing to do is to forgive ourselves. And so know that God has forgiven you, and you need to forgive yourself so that you can continue to do excellent work and excellent ministry. Hack number 15, tell your family that you love them regularly. Remember that your family is your most important ministry. And so it's important that you attend to those relationships. And it's important that you remember to tell your family how much you love them on a regular basis. And it's a reminder to you that there are persons in your life who are supporting you and who are encouraging you. Home should be a safe place. And no matter how bad a day you've had, you should always have family to come home to, or family that you can go to who will cheer you on, who will be your number one cheerleaders.
All right. Hack number 16, find music that feeds your soul. It might be a favorite artist that you just need to turn on at 3 o'clock when you're starting to hit that afternoon slump. Sometimes if you're on these streaming services like Spotify or Apple Music, they'll recommend things for you. And sometimes that's just enough because the lyrics are new, the songs are new, and that can also keep you going, give you some energy. But sometimes I also choose a particular song that's really meaningful for me, and it's just on repeat all day long. Whatever it is that I am longing for, or the message that I need to hear, and I just put that song on repeat. It's on my computer, it's on my phone, it's in my car. And that message, it kind of begins to live in me, and maybe I'll even start to believe it if I listen to it long enough.
And Kara, one of my favorite songs is in the book Soul Reset. I talk about this in the book, and it's called Journey On by Elms District. And the words of the song is that you only have one more river to cross, one more storm to get through. And it's just a reminder, like whatever I'm experiencing in my day, I just got one more river to cross, one more storm to get to, one more mountain to climb. But it's inspiring. That's a very good hack.
Yeah. Hack number 17 is exercise. We follow an incarnated Lord. God took on flesh. And so we need to take care of these bodies that have been given to us, whether that's building strength or flexibility or agility. And again, getting out of our head helps us stay healthy, to be a whole person. For me, that particular practice is yoga. And about 4 years ago, I broke my leg. And my daughter, who was probably 14 at the time, said, "What are we going to do if you can't practice yoga?" Because she knew if I wasn't moving my body and getting the stress out of my body, that their lives were going to be more difficult. So whatever that exercise is for you, if it's inside or outside, but move that body of yours. Sometimes it's alone, sometimes with a group of people. I walk with a friend 4 mornings a week. The only reason I get out on the road is because I know she's at the end of my driveway. Hack number 18 is to write a thank you note to someone, to anyone. Just to take a moment to give thanks for the small kindnesses. It's so easy to only see the things to do in front of us, the things that are going wrong. But one of my colleagues right outside my office has a box of thank you notes on her desk. And she encourages us all to just pick one up whenever we want and write a thank you note to someone in the building. Just to shift your perspective and remember the blessings that are all around us. Number 19, back to reading, is to read a novel or something outside your interests. Again, I've learned about physics. I've learned about, my husband is reading about bees. I'm learning about bees. So I'm learning about the natural world. And it's just, again, ideas and creativity comes back to me when I leave a problem for a little bit. So that's hack number 19. And number 20, as I sit here with a Coke on my desk, is to substitute your caffeine fix in the afternoon for a glass of water. So it's really easy to get hooked on that caffeine or the sugar or whatever it is in the afternoon. But maybe it's time to revisit one of those earlier hacks, to take a walk around the block or grab another glass of water.
Great. So hack number 21, and this really applies to pastors and leaders, and it is to meet with leaders and don't talk about church. Oftentimes as pastors, we'll meet with persons and the subject is always about church, a project, something that's coming up. And I find the same thing in the church world, where people who are working together in the church, they're always just talking about things that they're working on. They don't really are spending the time getting to know one another and listening and hearing hearing each other's stories. Hearing somebody's story and listening to someone is a great way, again, to engage and to deepen and develop relationships. So I highly encourage you to do that. Hack number 22, make a list of your emotional triggers. Be aware of them. Sometimes there'll be something that will trigger you emotionally, and either it is going to raise your blood pressure or it's going to send you into a funk or a depression. So be aware of what those triggers are for you, so that when you are aware of them, you can manage them better. So it's about managing your anxiety and knowing that you are the only person who is responsible. You are responsible for your own nervous system. So make a list of your emotional triggers. Hack number 23, and these are what I call emotional pushers. Emotional pushers, and you can read more about these in Soul Reset. It's okay to make a mistake. The emotional pusher is that I have to be perfect. No, it's okay to make a mistake. Just learn from it. So the only way we grow is by making mistakes. And so I make it a habit of telling those persons or giving permission to those I lead that, hey, this is a permission. It's okay to make a mistake. Hack number 24, it is okay to be vulnerable. The emotional pusher here is I have to be strong. You don't always have to be strong or the strong person. It's okay to be vulnerable. As a matter of fact, there's grace in vulnerability. There's authenticity in vulnerability. Hack number 25, and I love this one. It is okay to rethink everything you've ever thought. I cannot tell you how much stress there is when you have to hold on to a position that you've moved away from 4 or 5 months ago, or maybe years ago, but you're holding on to it because it's something you said. It's okay. It's okay to rethink everything you've ever thought. It's okay to evolve as a person and as a human being. Hack number 26, it's okay to slow down. The emotional pusher here is hurry up, hurry up. Gil Rendell, one of my mentors, he says, hey, we're in a hurry, slow down. We don't have much time, slow down, right? So it's the slowing down that allows you to make better decisions. And it is the slowing down that will reduce your stress level. And it's also the slowing down that will increase your capacity to actually do better work.
Thank you. All right, hack number 27. Don't take your cell phone to meetings or to meals or when you exercise. Pick one, but pick some place in your day when you don't take your cell phone. I just met with a friend who said he is prepared whenever he goes out to eat. He looks for a family that no one has their cell phone out, and he's going to buy them dinner. He has yet to buy anyone dinner. So leave your cell phone behind sometimes. Hack number 28, ask for help. Ask for help for anything. Maybe you need help with getting your house cleaned or running an errand, moving furniture, leading a Bible study, setting up the room for a meeting. Ask for help for something, because there are lots of folks in our community who want to help us. They don't know how because we haven't asked, but they really want to participate in our ministries and in our self-care and in caring for our families. So find something that you can ask for help.
Can I phrase it in a permission form? It's okay to ask for what you need.
Yes.
It's okay to ask for what you need. And everything you just said is true. And sometimes we're reluctant to ask for what we need, but it's okay.
It is okay. When I started in ministry, I started in youth ministry, and a wise person told me to practice the 2/3 rule. They said to imagine my day in thirds. And if I knew I was going to be going to some youth basketball games or youth plays in the evenings, not to come into the office until 10 a.m. So I didn't have to feel the need to work all day long every day, but to try to work 2/3 of each day. So I encourage you to think about what that looks like in your setting. Hack number 30, take your vacation days. Don't let those pile up and sit there. You don't even have to go anywhere. A staycation is just fine. But take your vacation days. Those are days for you to rejuvenate, to sleep, to rest, and your work and your ministry will be better off for it. And hack 31 is practice Sabbath. Bishop Job was one of the bishops who was in my local church, in the United Methodist Church. He recommended taking 1 hour a day for Sabbath, 1 day a week, and 1 week a year. He said for the health of our souls and the health of our ministries, that was the way that he recommended we all practice Sabbath. And I've carried that with me for many, many years.
All right. So the next 3 hacks really come straight out of Soul Reset, soulreset.org. And the hack number 32 is worship every week in ways that are meaningful to you. In your community or in a different community, praise, thanksgiving, Eucharist, confession, find a place to worship. And I know sometimes that's difficult for pastors because you're always in worship leading. But the joy of technology is that you can worship online. And I've got persons I worship with every week just so that I can experience a different type of worship. Hack number 33, seek spiritual direction or therapy. It's good for you and good for the people with whom you serve. This is one of the core principles that I talk about in Soul Reset. It's about therapy and having the ability I think one of the things that I say in Soul Reset is that I need Jesus and a good therapist. All right. So I think that's an important piece. Do not be afraid or ashamed or embarrassed to seek therapy. I know sometimes a stigma in some communities, but that's one of the things that I'm fighting for, is to erase the stigma so that people can be spiritually and psychologically and mentally whole. Hack number 34, tell someone when you're close to burnout. Be honest about feeling exhausted, depressed, lonely. And it's important because when you tell people that, they can help hold you accountable and they can encourage you to take the rest that you need.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think we're going to meet the time limit. Hack number 35, pray daily. In silence or in song, alone or with others. Praying for you might be talking with God. It might be listening to God, some combination of them. Maybe you pray with the Bible. Maybe some days you don't pray with the Bible. But every day, find a way to pray. That's actually what was one of the themes of the Upper Room for a long time. Helping folks find a way to pray every day. Hack number 36. Don't make assumptions. Don't assume that people know how you feel or know what you need. And don't assume that you know how other people feel or what other people need. Just asking the simple question, I wonder if, or I want to be clear about, but don't assume. I think people appreciate an honest conversation and an honest question more than assuming. Hack number 37 is a challenge to choose one thing from this list and to do it daily for 1 month. Just to try it. Just to commit to one act of self-care for 30 days and see how it changes the way you do ministry, the way you feel about your ministry, if there's an increase in joy. Hack number 38 is to tell one other person about this webinar and something that you learned. About how to avoid burnout. I think that goes back to some of our hacks about vulnerability and finding someone close to you to talk to. Tell someone about this webinar. And Junius, we left 39 blank for any information.
Hack number 39. Eat some good barbecue. When you're in Kansas City, Jack Stacks, Q39. I've had some great barbecue this week. That's a cure for burnout, I tell you.
I'm so glad we left that one blank.
Okay, so wait a minute. Did you know I'm from Kansas City? Did you do that for me? Like
I did not know that. Hey, but I've had some good barbecue this week.
I know you have. You're making me a little homesick. Wow, guys. Thank you guys so much. That was, oh my gosh. And Jose is also from Kansas City. He's saying eat a slaps. So while you're there, if you get a little time,
okay.
Eat a slaps. Matter of fact, that is a good place. It's great barbecue all the way around. Yeah. And matter of fact, last time I was with you guys there, that you guys took me to some good barbecue places as well. So I'm sorry, the world, we didn't mean to have that barbecue diversion. Barbecue, and I'm no longer burned out, so we're good. Now, I would like for all of you to take a moment and list let's go ahead and go to 40. Take a moment in the chat and list which of these 40 are your favorite. Matter of fact, the 37th challenge here was to take one of these and do them for at least every day for once a month. And we know that that's what it takes in order for it to become a habit take some time, go ahead and start this first round of accountability and list in the chat which one of these like hits you the hardest, and you know that you need to start doing this in order to do more, be more accountability. Was it 28 where you're asking for help? Was it 21 where it says meet with leaders and don't talk about church? Was it number 6 that says that you need to journal and journal every day? Or was it number 1 where it's just a matter of just simply breathing? So go through those and decide which one of these hacks is most important to you and which one you're going to commit to practicing every single day for the next month. All right, guys, we have a million questions. They flooded in. We got a lot of things to talk about, so I hope you're ready. We're going to get started with this first question that simply asks, how does one get the courage to make changes that allow space for self-care?
Wow, that is a great question. And this goes back to vulnerability and being able to admit honestly where you are. I have to tell you that, and I talk about, I forget which chapter it is in Soul Reset, but when I talk about when I first dealt with depression in this new church start, and it was really a moment of vulnerability for me because I was unable. I had to take a break from ministry, and it was in taking a break that I had to be honest with my leadership and my leaders, and to let them know, hey, this is where I am. I am not in a good place emotionally, healthy, or spiritually right now. I need to take some time away. And I have to tell you that it was in those moments that I really learned true leadership, because these persons stepped up I learned that I was carrying burdens that did not belong to me. And so I think it just starts with being vulnerable and trusting your persons to rally around you.
If I can add, I would say I've learned that the flip side of despair is courage. So unfortunately for me, it took hitting rock bottom before I could admit to people and find the courage to tell people. For me, it was also an experience of depression. So I hope webinars like this and finding people that you trust, my hope is that you don't get to rock bottom before you find the courage to tell someone and to take good care of yourself.
It seems like to me that there's a thin line between rock bottom and resilience. We get this idea that, we're just being resilient. We're being, and that resiliency also is on the spectrum of self-care. So how do you know the difference, or what is the difference between self-care and resiliency?
A couple weeks ago, we hosted a retreat here at the Upper Room on resilience for activists. And they shared a poem at the beginning of that retreat. And I'm not going to remember the exact words, but it was about a bird that had left a branch, and the branch immediately returned back to stasis. And that was the resiliency. When, how quickly do you have the capacity to return to health? And so I think there's a difference between the capacity to return to a healthy state, and when that takes longer and longer and longer, I think we moved away from resiliency and just into an unhealthy, dangerous state of being. So the capacity to return quickly to health.
That's very good. And I think what I am learning is to pay closer attention to recovery. And that means, I think, there's rhythms, like we all operate in rhythms. And you have to be aware of what your rhythms are. Mm-hmm. And so I tend to work in very intense periods of time. Like I can go 6-8 weeks, just intense, drive. And then I know that I need to back off, and I need to have a rhythm or a period of time when I'm not in that high intensity, where I am doing more ordinary, routine type of tasks. So I think it's important to understand what your rhythms are, and it's important to build in those times of recovery. Maybe it's an extra day off. Maybe you're going to a movie. I love movies, and sometimes just getting away or watching a movie on demand, just putting all the blinds down in the house and watching a movie on demand is it helps me to kind of move to a different place.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of the idea of being introverted or extroverted. Understanding those aspects about yourself really will help you tap into which way you need to go. So I'm one of those weird persons in the middle. I'm omniverted,
Yeah.
and so I can kind of go both ways. Have energy with people, and because of the way that people experience me with people, they think I'm always an extrovert. But I do have those moments where people are completely draining me,
Right.
and I have to go and do that and take that downtime. But if you don't have that awareness, it is quicker that you'll burn out because you're like, why am I depleted? I'm a pastor, I'm a minister, I'm a servant, I'm supposed to love people, but all of a sudden everybody's getting on my nerves, and that's just because you are not aware enough of yourself. So can we make that like hack number 41? Become aware of yourself so that you can take care of yourself.
Yes.
Because if you don't know who you are, good luck taking care of someone you do not know. All right. So let me ask this question next. If leaders aren't getting their most important work done and they're on the verge of burnout and have little time for life, what needs to change at their organization's level in order for them to do better? Because this is not just about self-care. There are things that our tribe, that our village, that our team can do to help us from burning out.
Well, two things I would say here. Number one is be aware of the tyranny of the urgent, right? So there's a difference between something that's urgent and something that's important. And often we get caught up in just dealing with things that are urgent. So part of that's planning. Part of that is learning to delegate. Part of that is implementing healthy systems. And also part of that is the ability to say no, right? So you have to give yourself permission to say no to some things. You can't be at every meeting. You can't be at every gathering. You can't be. So you have to give yourself permission to say no to some things. And I have to tell you that as a pastor, that's something that I've learned and am learning over the years. And one of the greatest things about being an interim pastor is there are a lot of things that I'm not present at because I'm the interim. So it's a whole different. I wish I had done ministry like this.
I think there's.
Don't be careful what you ask for.
I want to give some props to Junius, who's the leader of our organization, for modeling what it means. So when he came on as the general secretary, we have board meetings every year, and he said one of the board meetings is going to be a retreat. So, you think about board members and they want to task and make decisions and do all these things. And Judy said, and we need to retreat and pray and listen and do a lot of the things that he's talking about here. So for folks who have the authority to set that model, claim it. I think it's so important. The head of the upper room right now, Steve Bryant, he instituted something called Practicing What We Publish. So the upper room publishes all these books on spiritual practice, but we weren't doing it in the organization. So now every Monday at 10 a.m., our staff gathers to practice something that we're publishing and telling the world that they should practice. So if you're on a church staff, how can you claim those things for yourself? But if you are a lead pastor or if you're the head of an organization, I think part of that vulnerability is modeling that for people and giving them permission to do it for themselves.
And I think one of the uniqueness of, the type of work that we do, the ministry that we do, there is a spirit of flexibility. And I would encourage particularly pastors and leaders of organizations that you give people flexibility. I'd say to our staff now at the Discipleship, we have staff that they do volunteer things during the week. They have time and the space to be able to do that. I don't want any parent to miss a child's program. If a parent needs to go volunteer on a field trip, they have the space to be able to do that. And it actually makes them more effective in their ministries, makes them more effective leaders.
Yeah. One of the things that needs to happen as a leader, Matter of fact, the prerequisite from being a good leader is being a good follower. And so you don't just stop being a follower when you become a leader. You should be following something, if nothing else. How about Christ? He's a great person to follow. And so if you stay in that place of following, then you'll think as a leader, like as a follower, what can I do to help my leader not burn out, because we value this person. And so in your moments as you reflect back, Kara and Junius, as a follower, what things that you practice, or do you look back and say you should have practiced to help your leaders prevent from being burnt out?
Well, I would say for me, I had very good models coming into ministry. In terms of how we did meetings, how we took space away. I mean, I started ministry in San Francisco when I was ordained an elder in San Francisco, and which is beautiful part of the country. And like even in between services on a Sunday morning, we drive down to the marina just to spend time at the water. I mean, things like that. And so I had a leader that gave us permission to do that. And as a follower, I would say, hey, do you want me to preach this week? Do you want me to lead that meeting? Can I help contribute? Can I write something for you? I mean, those are ways I think that when you bring a team together, everybody has different gifts. And so as a follower, I think offering what your strength is to a leader, I think is a very, very valuable gift. So they know they don't have to do everything.
I had kind of an opposite.
Kara, did you?
Yeah, I had kind of an opposite experience. My very first boss, she worked all the time. She took work home with her. It was her passion, and she wasn't unhappy, and she wasn't burnt out. But it was hard for me to find as a 20, 25-year-old person that I didn't have to also work the way she did. That was a hard lesson to learn because I wanted her approval. I wanted a good evaluation. I wanted all those things, but slowly coming to learn, I don't have to lead the way she leads. We all lead differently. And going back to your point too, Terrell, about knowing yourself and the point of knowing your own rhythms and finding the courage to be faithful to those. But I struggle too as a leader. But then I find myself at this point in my journey expecting people to keep up with me. And so I have to remember and give grace. And remember, for me, I'm real task oriented and I can forget the relationships. So how do I constantly remember the relationships are just as important as the tasks that we're trying to accomplish together?
That's good. As I'm thinking back on just kind of like probably even some of my own nasty habits, I think that we all know people who brag about being so busy, or brag about, I haven't had a vacation day in so many times. And I love how people in the chat are talking about pampering themselves, taking vacation days, taking sabbaticals, doing those types of things. But there seems to be this glory attached to people who never take a break and who work all the time and who work 60 hours and are always going. And it seems like that's the key to success. So how do you overcome the guilt sometimes of some people actually feel guilty of taking time for themselves. So in our last question, how do you help people not feel guilty about taking time for themselves?
I will go back to Jesus, who did take time away. And Henry Nouwen has a beautiful article talking about the ministry of absence. And he talks about how Jesus, even in his death and resurrection, left his disciples and left us. He sent the Comforter and he sent peace. But Jesus even saw a value in absence as much as the value of his presence. So I think continual modeling and grace and letting go of shame and guilt. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish, I think this is one of those things that you just have to continue to grow into as you give yourself permission to be human. There are times when I will admit that's something I still struggle with at times. But giving myself permission to be able to say, you know what, I'm just going to take the morning off, or I'm just going to sleep in today, or I've hit a wall, So and I need to back off, and so giving myself permission to do that. But what I've also found very empowering is sharing with people. Like when you're honest and you share your journey with others, I mean, they help you be accountable. They help you keep those norms and those standards, and they help you say, hey, you haven't taken a day off. You need to take some time. Hey, you've been going nonstop. And it's good to have those persons who can just be those reminders for you that you need to have a Sabbath and you do need to take regular time off, and it's okay to do so.
Great. I can't thank you guys enough. I would like to think I could speak for the whole community for the gift of your presence today. I'm glad that you did not take today off because we needed you. We need each other. We need to be able to really kind of talk about this. I want to make sure people get a source. Tell us a little bit, just for a brief moment, about how they can get a hold of the book. I understand that it's not yet published, or give us a little bit, Junius, about how to get a hold of Soul Reset.
So if you go to soulreset.org, I think you can maybe download a sampler, and you also can pre-order the book. So the book will come out in September. So you can pre-order the book. And I also want to share, not only can you pre-order the book, but if you go online and do it, there's a discount. Like there's a 30% discount right now. And along with the book, it's going to be Bible studies, a small group curriculum. There are going to be special studies for men. There are going to be sermon starters. There's going to be lots of collateral material in support of this book. And also would encourage those who are listening and those who this webinar will be shared with, if you keep visiting discipleshipministries.org or the upper room, you'll see a list of places I'll be speaking in the fall. And I would love to meet you personally. And if you purchase a book, I would love to sign it. So tell me that you bought the book online, bring it to me, and I'll sign it for you personally. Look forward to meeting you in the fall.
All right. So I hope everybody caught this promotional item and there's time to get a bit of a discount. But you know what? Forget that discount. Go ahead and send them a check for 18 books. Buy a bunch of them. Hand them out. Christmas is coming up one of these years, and so hand them out. That's a time of high suicide amongst a lot of people. Yes. Or right now, every May will be Mental Health Awareness Month. So buy them. Get stocked up on them. If graduates of any level of education. If they're graduating from kindergarten, buy them a Soul Reset book. One day you're going to need to apply these principles. So this is really important stuff. Again, thank you guys so much for being here. I want to make sure that you understand how to get a hold of Kara, how to get a hold of Junius in the future so that you can. And Kara, why don't you get us started? Give us your contact information and how we can get a hold of you.
The easiest way is my email, which is koliver@upperroom.org. You can call me too. I'll even give you my cell phone. 615-339-5844. If I'm taking some self-care, I won't answer. So leave a message.
And Dr. Dotson.
K. Oliver.
J. Dotson.
No, JB Dotson at umcdiscipleship.org. And hey, follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook, and I would love to interact with you on social media as well. Instagram, all of those social media. You just look me up.
Great. Matter of fact, do that across the board with the United Methodist Church, with the Upper Room, with Discipleship Ministry, and of course, New Church Ministry. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, MySpace. We're on them all. So go ahead and follow us. watch, and you can do that at New Church Ministry, usually, except for I think Twitter is like New Church DOC. So newchurchministry.org is also where you can gain more resources and everything about New Church. We're here to help the start of new churches and to make more disciples. And I also would welcome not necessarily a phone call, but you can text a brother at 317-593-5323 or Terrell at newchurchministry.org. Again, thank you guys so much for being here today. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time. If you are tuning in to us, you can also look at the playback to this. You can go to newchurchhacks.org and you'll be able to experience that playback and share it with others. I'm sure there were some people who you were thinking to yourself, oh my God, I wish they had been here to hear this. So be sure and send them to us as a gift from your family at the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, in unity with the United Methodist Church. Now, as I promised, I'm going to give you 7 off-topic new church hacks, helping you to understand how to embrace curiosity as a leadership skill. Number 1, be on a never-ending quest for new insight, new understanding, and new answers. Number 2, remember that leaders are learners and leaders are readers. So in your quest to embrace curiosity as a leadership skill. Number 3, empathize with others by learning more about their story. Number 4, stretch yourself beyond your current understanding or skill set. Number 5, take risk, large and small. That may just be doing something impossible and making the impossible possible. Number 6, ask questions every single day, then take the time to stop and get them answered. Number 7, seek out learning opportunities through books, through podcasts, email lists, events, and even webinars. And those are your 7 off-topic topics about how to embrace curiosity as a leadership skill. We thank you so much for this opportunity to join us in the spirit of May being Mental Health Awareness Day. We want to thank our partners at the National Benevolent Association. They posted a prayer that I would like to close us out reading that was written by the Reverend Rick Powell. And so he is a pastor out of Baltimore, Maryland. And so we're going to close by reading this prayer together. And I say together because I want to take a moment real quick and post it in the chat so that you can see it and experience it as well. So give me a brief moment to do that for you. Again, let's continue to hold up everyone in our country and across the world in prayer. And let's go to God in prayer in this time. It's, oh God of life, we so often ask you to comfort those of us who are inflicted, and to afflict those of us who are comfortable. Today, we ask you to help us be more careful with that request. Today, oh God, we recognize that there are so many among us whose spirits are troubled, and those families who feel afflicted, and those lives feel like a struggle just to get through one more day. Help us be more careful about asking you ever to afflict us. And if we are to be afflicted, oh God, may it be an affliction that leads us to pay more attention to those around us who are not well. How much better would it be if we all treated one another as people who are beautiful and gifted, but also as people who are troubled, burdened, and in need of a simple gift of kindness. We are in positions to give. Remind us today, oh God, those who will, oh God, whose will is for us to experience joy, that the symptoms of our illnesses include embarrassment and even shame. And if there is a way for us to be more tenderhearted, more quick to listen and slow to speak, if there is a way for us to take more time with each other, to absorb even the anger we feel from others more with curiosity than with judgment, if we can do any of these things, perhaps we will find ourselves just a little closer to offering the presence of Christ, who seem to have a way with people who aren't feeling their best. And in whose name we pray, amen. Thank you guys so much for being with us today. We love you, we appreciate you, and see you next time for New Church Hacks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, thank you.